Welcome back to Change Your Life. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Australia 2-cent Frilled-Neck Lizard coins, exploring their iconic design, hidden treasures, and shocking history as we reveal the top 3 most valuable and expensive ultra-rare coins from the Commonwealth of Australia. The coins featured in this video include 1966 Australia 2-cent, no mint mark. 1978 Australia 2-cent, no mint mark. 1967 Australia 2-cent, no mint mark. These bronze, penny-style coins feature the famous Frilled-Neck Lizard reverse design, one of the most recognizable designs in Australian decimal coinage. At first glance, these coins may look dirty, worn, and heavily circulated, just ordinary small change from decades ago. But don't be fooled. Certain rare varieties, mint errors, and high-grade condition examples have turned some of these seemingly common coins into treasures worth thousands, and in rare cases, even more dollars today. Money bag. So before you ignore that old 2-cent coin in your collection or coin jar, stick around, because you might be holding a hidden fortune in your hands. Backhand index pointing right first up. Coin number 1. This coin was introduced in 1966 when Australia shifted to decimal currency. It was part of a historic monetary change, a moment when old pounds disappeared and a new era began. The 2-cent coin was struck in bronze and featured one of the most dramatic animal designs ever placed on small change, the frilled-neck lizard, flaring its famous neck frill in a defensive display. It wasn't just a coin. It was a statement of national identity. The coins were produced by the Royal Australian Mint, and some early production was also associated with facilities connected to Perth Mint. Interestingly, these coins did not carry a mint mark. So at first glance, every 1966 2-cent coin looks the same. No letter. No symbol. Just bronze. Just detail. Just history. When they were released, millions entered circulation. They paid for newspapers, candy, bus rides. They rattled in pockets and cash drawers. No one imagined that decades later, collectors would analyze these coins under magnification, searching for tiny differences in strike quality and preservation. The obverse shows Queen Elizabeth II in youthful profile, a symbol of continuity at a time of economic modernization. The reverse, however, steals the spotlight. The frilled-neck lizard appears bold, alert, its frill extended, claws gripping the ground. The design has energy. It feels alive. Even on a small bronze disc. Most 1966 2-cent coins today are dirty, worn, heavily circulated. The bronze has darkened with age. Edges are softened. Fine lines in the lizard's scales are faded. To many people, they look worthless, especially since Australia officially withdrew 1 and 2-cent coins from circulation in the 1990s. After withdrawal, huge quantities were melted down. Others were forgotten in jars. And this is where survival becomes important. When coins are removed from circulation and destroyed in large numbers, the remaining examples slowly gain historical weight. Not because they are instantly rare, but because time reduces supply. And supply, over decades, shapes collector demand. Now let's be clear and realistic. A heavily circulated 1966 Australian 2-cent coin is generally not worth millions of dollars. Most worn examples trade for modest collector premiums. Viral claims about overnight billionaire coins are usually exaggerated. True coin value depends on verifiable rarity, documented auction sales, and especially condition. However, condition can transform perception. A 1966 2-cent coin preserved in exceptional condition, bright original red-brown luster, crisp detail in the lizard's frill, sharp rim, minimal contact marks, can command significantly higher prices than a worn piece. High-grade survivors from early decimal years are much scarcer than common circulated examples. Then there is the excitement of minting anomalies. Every minting process carries risk of small irregularities. Slight off-center strikes. Die cracks. Planchet imperfections. Subtle doubling in lettering. When such features are genuine and authenticated, they turn an ordinary coin into something far more interesting to collectors. Collectors chase stories. They chase uniqueness. They chase what stands out. And the 1966 Frilled-Neck Lizard coin stands out historically. It marks the birth of Australia's decimal system. It represents wildlife rarely showcased so boldly on everyday currency. It connects modern Australia with its natural environment. Imagine holding one today. It may look dark and worn, but it has traveled through nearly 60 years of hands and history. It witnessed economic shifts, cultural changes, and the disappearance of small denomination cash. That journey alone gives it meaning beyond metal. The dream of finding $1 million coin is powerful. It attracts attention. It sparks curiosity. But the real power of this 1966 2-cent coin is not fantasy wealth. It is knowledge. Understanding grade. Understanding rarity. Understanding authenticity. Because in coin collecting, knowledge creates opportunity. A perfectly preserved early decimal coin, certified and graded at a high level, can achieve impressive auction results compared to its original face value. Not billions. Not overnight fortune. But meaningful collector money built on real market demand. The frilled-neck lizard on that coin almost feels symbolic. When threatened, it spreads its frill wide to appear larger and more dramatic. In a way, the coin does the same. Small in denomination, large in cultural impact. So before someone dismisses a 1966 Australian 2-cent coin as worthless bronze, before someone tosses it aside, before someone believes unrealistic internet claims, pause. Look closely. Study condition. Study detail. Study history. Because sometimes value is not in the metal, not in the hype, but in understanding what you are holding. The 1966 Australian 2-cent frilled-neck lizard coin may not make you a billionaire overnight, but it carries history, identity, and the possibility, however small, that preservation and rarity together can turn ordinary pocket change into something collectors genuinely respect. And sometimes, that respect is the beginning of real value. In 1978, Australia was more than a decade into its decimal currency journey. The excitement of change had faded. The coins were no longer new. They were simply part of daily life. Among them was the bronze 2-cent coin, slightly larger than the 1 cent, heavier in the hand, and carrying one of the most dramatic animal designs ever placed on everyday money. This coin was struck by the Royal Australian Mint. Like many early decimal issues, it carried no mint mark. No letter to separate one facility from another. Just clean fields, bronze color, and a powerful reverse design that made it unforgettable. The frilled-neck lizard. Not calm, not gentle, but defensive, alert, fierce. Its frill extended wide, its mouth slightly open, its body tense as if ready to move. On a small bronze surface, it looked alive. In 1978, millions of these coins entered circulation. They paid for milk, bread, newspapers. They passed through school canteens and corner stores. They clinked in cash registers. Nobody looked twice. Nobody imagined that decades later people would search through jars and drawers wondering if one of these tiny coins could be valuable. At the time, it was just 2 cents. Just change. Just metal. The composition was bronze, primarily copper, giving it that warm reddish glow when freshly struck. But circulation is unforgiving. Coins rub against each other. They scrape against keys. They fall to the ground. Over years, the bright red fades into brown. Then dark brown. Sometimes nearly black. Today, most 1978 2-cent coins are dirty, worn, heavily circulated. The sharp edges of the lizard's frill softened. The tiny scale details flattened. The rim slightly smooth. To the casual eye, they appear worthless, especially because Australia officially removed 1 and 2-cent coins from circulation in the early 1990s. When those coins were withdrawn, something important happened. They stopped being currency. They became history. Millions were melted down. Large quantities disappeared forever. The supply quietly shrank. And whenever supply shrinks over time, collectors begin paying attention. Now let's pause and speak clearly. A heavily circulated 1978 Australian 2-cent coin is generally not worth millions of dollars. It will not turn someone into a billionaire overnight. Viral claims on the internet often exaggerate coin values for excitement. Real coin markets operate on verified sales, professional grading, and condition rarity. But here is where the story becomes interesting. Condition changes everything. A 1978 2-cent coin preserved in exceptional, almost untouched condition is far more difficult to find than a worn one. A coin with original red luster, bright, glowing copper-toned, minimal contact marks, crisp detail in the lizard's frill and claws, strong lettering and clean surfaces that is not common after nearly 50 years. Collectors compete for quality, not quantity. And high-grade survivors from early decimal years can command impressive premiums compared to face value. Not because of metal content. Bronze itself is inexpensive. But because preservation at that level is scarce. Then comes another layer of excitement: minting irregularities. Every minting year carries small risks of production quirks. Minor off-center strikes. Die cracks forming thin raised lines. Slight planchet flaws before striking. Subtle doubling in letters. These are not guaranteed, and they are not widespread. But when they appear and are authenticated, they transform an ordinary coin into something collectors actively chase. Collectors love uniqueness. They love the unexpected. They love a coin that tells a slightly different story. And the 1978 Frilled-Neck Lizard coin already tells a strong one. It represents Australia's wildlife in bold form. It captures a creature known for dramatic self-defense, spreading its frill to appear larger than it is. In a strange way, the coin mirrors that behavior. Small denomination. Big visual impact. Underestimated at first glance. Now imagine opening an old container filled with bronze coins. Most are dark, scratched, dull. But one catches the light differently. A hint of red luster still glowing. The lizard's frill sharply defined. The field smooth and reflective. That moment sparks possibility. Not fantasy wealth, but real collector curiosity. The power of coins like the 1978 2-cent is not in unrealistic billionaire dreams. It is in understanding. In learning how great affects value. In recognizing that rarity is often about condition survival rather than mintage numbers alone. The withdrawal of low-denomination coins marked the end of an era. Digital payments replaced metal. Cash usage declined. The physical connection between hand and money faded. That gives these coins emotional weight. They are reminders of a tactile economy. Of childhood pocket money. Of gingling change in a pocket. The 1978 Australian 2-cent Frilled-Neck Lizard coin may not hold unimaginable millions in ordinary condition. But it holds history, identity, and the potential, when preserved exceptionally or struck unusually, to be worth far more than its tiny face value. And sometimes the greatest fortune is not in believing hype. It is in knowing what to look for. Because knowledge turns ordinary bronze into informed opportunity. And that is where real value begins. The year was 1967. Australia was settling deeper into its decimal currency era. Everyday coins clinked in pockets, cash registers, and hands across the nation. Among them was a bronze 2-cent piece, unassuming, small, yet hiding a story far larger than its face value suggested. This coin, struck by the Royal Australian Mint or possibly the Canberra Mint, carried no mint mark. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. Copper-colored, round, and practical. But the reverse revealed something extraordinary: the frilled-neck lizard, frozen in bronze, frill spread wide, mouth open, ready to spring. A creature of defense, rendered in meticulous detail on a coin smaller than a thumbnail. Millions of these coins entered circulation. They were pocket change, used to buy newspapers, sweets, or milk. Most people never noticed the lizard's detail, never imagined that decades later collectors would scour drawers and jars searching for these very pieces. To the casual eye, it was just 2 cents. Nothing more. Over decades, the coins endured. They rubbed together, fell on concrete, scratched against keys. Their once bright bronze surface darkened. The frill's fine edges softened. Some were bent, others dented. Circulation was unforgiving, turning what was once crisp and alive into worn, dirty, ordinary metal. Yet history had already set the stage for value. By the early 1990s, Australia removed the 1 and 2 cent coins from circulation. Millions were melted down. Only a fraction survived, hidden in old jars, forgotten drawers, or between sofa cushions. Scarcity had begun its silent work. Today, the ordinary 1967 2-cent coin is often overlooked. Worn examples are common, easily dismissed. But those few coins preserved in near-perfect condition, strong red bronze color, crisp frill, sharp lettering, have an appeal collectors notice immediately. Their rarity, combined with their story and detailed design, transforms a humble coin into a sought-after piece of numismatic history. Minting variations and production quirks add another layer. Slide-off center strikes, subtle die cracks, faint doubling, these are minor anomalies, yet they excite collectors. Each anomaly tells a story, marking that coin as unique among millions. A coin can be ordinary at first glance, but these small differences can make it extraordinary. Collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying history, identity, and the thrill of discovery. The 1967 Frilled-Neck Lizard coin represents Australia's wildlife in a bold, unmistakable design. It reminds us that even the smallest items can carry culture, story, and significance. The real power of coins like this isn't in instant billionaire dreams, despite viral rumors. It's in knowledge, patience, and recognizing condition and rarity. One well-preserved coin can be worth far more than its tiny face value, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands, if the market aligns with collector demand. Opening a jar of old coins and spotting one of these is like seeing history in your hand. A simple piece of bronze suddenly carries decades of story, art, and potential value. The Frilled-Neck Lizard coin challenges assumptions. Small can be mighty. Ordinary can be rare. Forgotten can be coveted. And this is the essence of collectible coins: curiosity, attention to detail, and patience. The 1967 Australian 2-cent Frilled-Neck Lizard coin may seem insignificant at first glance, but for those who understand its story, its rarity, and its unique design, it is far from ordinary. It's a reminder that value often hides where we least expect it, in the palm of your hand, waiting for the moment someone recognizes its true power.